Coming up, hotel hopping for my recent trip to the Walt Disney World Resort. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John in the lightning strike and lawn mowing capital of the world.
There you go. That's awesome.
That's Florida, for those of you that don't know.
That's a new one. I love that. That's great. All right. So today, yes, I've just taken a trip down there. We are going to do the trip report on this one for the next podcast, because in talking before the podcast, John and I kind of discussed maybe it's important to do the hotel experience first, because that was a big part of this trip. And, you know, I have some interesting things to say about it. And I think, John, you can really interact with me on that as well, because you've stayed at, I believe, all, or at least most of the resorts that I stayed at. I'm pretty sure you stayed at all of them. So we can have a good conversation with that. And also on this trip, John spent quite a bit of time with us over the course of at least 2 days. I believe it was 2 days, right, John? And so we have some shared experience there, and I believe that deserves a podcast of its own, because there's some really cool stuff about the DAS Pass and Lightning Lane and the experiences itself that we can talk about. But we will talk about the hotels, and we will talk about John's week in the parks here, and we also will cover the Guardians of the Galaxy experience a little bit that we had. So what were you going to say, John?
I do not remember. I decided the leaf blower noise was so loud that I hit the mute button, and then I kind of forgot what I was. I was going to say, yeah, we're going to save the trip report, because it was a lot of park experience, and you really learned a lot on that one too, like the way that the DAS Pass is working right now, the DAS Pass in comparison with Lightning Lane, and just a lot of observations about actually, you know, spending time there, and about how it works too. And that's where I come in.
Yeah. And in addition to that, we also ate together at two sit-down restaurants that a lot of people don't really talk about very often. So we have some experiences there we can really share, and I think that's going to be part of that as well. But with that said, John, before I hit the parks, you had some experiences. We missed a week on the podcast because of the trip, and so you actually have some park experiences outside of the time you spent with me. So how did that go?
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on it because, you know, it's interesting. I went to Animal Kingdom, and this was on a Sunday, I believe, by myself. And, you know, I enjoy going to Animal Kingdom by myself because there's so much to look at, so many pictures, so many weird angles to get and stuff. So I spent some time there, but a couple of things of note. I actually saw Kevin walking by, which...
Oh, yeah.
He's never seems to be there in the evening, so unless I go on a Sunday, I don't see special stuff like that. So, you know, I got some pictures and video of him, and I didn't even know he makes his weird calling sound, like when he's, you know, he randomly like turns his head and goes caw. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't even know he did that, because I've never spent too much time around him. But the bigger thing I wanted to mention was I decided to get lunch there, and I always go to the Satui Canteen, and, you know, I really do love that. It's one of my favorite meals in all of Walt Disney World. But I decided to get the smokehouse chicken salad at Flame Tree Barbecue because I did get this, probably a few months back I got it, and I remember saying it was really good. I would get it again, very enjoyable. And I don't know if you're following along with the pictures, but there's a picture of this thing on the menu, and this might be good. I don't know if you can get back to, actually I could probably just send it to you to simplify it. But anyway, there's a picture of it on the menu, and that looks like the salad that I got a couple of months ago. And like I said, it was delicious. And that picture, it looks delicious. It's a good size salad, lots of greens, lots of chicken, lots of barbecue sauce and all that.
Oh yeah, I can see it on your picture now.
All right, and then what I ended up getting, can you see that? It changed drastically. I got a very small plate, which even before I ate any of it, I can see to the bottom of the plate. It's like,
yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
right there's the bottom of the plate. I'm like, wait, this and.
Your chicken looks burnt too, almost.
Oh no, that's not chicken. That's croutons. So they were fine. Gosh. The chicken is hard to see. There's barely any of it there. It's a tiny bit in the middle. Okay. But anyway, what used to be an entree type plate with lots of food on it, like a nice filling salad, which man, I wish I had one right now, turned into what looks like a side salad. And even the side salad, it had barely any barbecue sauce on it. It was one of those wet lettuce salads. It just was not good. And it disappoints me to say that because I really liked it. And again, you look at the picture of what it used to look like on the sign and what it looks like now. My goodness. My only guess is Disney is cutting costs by, making their salads very small and taking a lot of stuff out of them. So again, I was very disappointed. I wanted to bring it up because I talked highly of it before. It's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, if you really don't want anything too heavy or something, or you really want a salad, honestly, I'd recommend going to the SeeWDW Canteen if you like that, because theirs is still filling and normal size. At least I hope it is. My goodness. If they do this to my favorite meal in all of Disney, I'm going to be disappointed, but it could happen. So anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know this may be a theme going at Disney. I hope not, because for me, I don't have to eat at Disney, but it adds another level of entertainment, I guess you'd say, for me. Like, it's like not only am I going there to go on rides, I enjoy getting something to eat there. It's a little expensive, but it's part of the experience, so I really do enjoy that. And so I really hope this is not the direction they're going in. And I was going to say, besides that, I think I went on Expedition Everest twice using the single rider line. And see, I think the first time it took about 7 minutes, and I think the second time it took a little bit longer than that, but 7 minutes isn't bad when the line was so big that it was hard to get to the single rider line because it was blocked by the normal line going straight up the road. So I had to cut through the normal line to get by the side there. It's like right on the side to the right of the queue, but they tend to, that's a good tip, they tend to block it off when the line is long unintentionally, which makes the single rider line even shorter. So if you can squeeze your way back there, it's an even shorter line. So anyway, so I did that, and I saw, here's another thing on the negative side. I saw Tough to Be a Bug, and Hopper is still not there. The Hopper animatronic, which is the coolest part of the show because it's such a well done animatronic. It doesn't even come up at all. So that's kind of
what the heck is it? Just a voice, or is that all you get is a voice?
Yeah, you just get a voice. Yep, and then at some point he's usually only up for like a few minutes, and then he goes back down, and then he's on the screen. So they just do the voice. And I was trying to record at the end where where they say to allow the insects to leave first, and everybody screams when they make the seats wiggle. The cast member literally yelled at me for getting my phone out during that. So normally Disney's pretty laid back about stuff like that. But I really think that for that ride, they don't want you recording because you'll see what shape it's in. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want people to say, oh, this, like the last time that I went in there was, probably months ago now. The screen was blurry, even with the 3D glasses, and there was no hopper then either. So the screen's a little clearer than it was. But they are really neglecting rides. And just as a reminder, too, when I went on Dinosaur a couple weeks ago, half those animatronics weren't working in there either. And that is one of our favorite rides. It really just makes me feel bad that they are neglecting it to that point. Because if they neglect it too much, people are going to be like, the ride's terrible. It's not good, and then people will stop going on it and they'll blame the ride instead of the maintenance. So just a concern that I have. So that was it for Animal Kingdom. A couple days later, I went to Hollywood Studios. My wife and I haven't been there in a while, and got there around a little after 5. We saw the Pixar Cavalcade, which is always nice. We rode Star Tours because it was a walk-on, always good. And then we decided to give Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway a try because it said that the line was not that long. But by the time we got in line, I think it said like 30 minutes or something on the app. So we walked over, got in line. By the time we got up front, it said 50 minutes. And yeah, we waited around 50 minutes. And, the ride's just like it was last time I rode it. It's okay. It really doesn't have the re-rideability of other rides, meaning if you live here, it's not one you want to ride that often. And so after that, we just checked out a couple of stores. And then as we're walking out, I told my wife, I said, we really should have went to Islands of Adventure. At least we could have ridden a few good rides, without waiting like that, because it drains the life out of you to just sit there 50 minutes and wait. So, and then she's like, yeah, we should have. And I honestly thought we were. We had some miscommunication, meaning I thought we were going to Hollywood. She thought I wanted to go. I thought she wanted to go to Hollywood Studios. She thought I did. She wondered why we didn't go to the other Universal too. But anyway, once again, Hollywood Studios without Lightning Lane or anything, it's just a really difficult park right now. I still like a few things there, but overall, I would say it's the park I want to go to the least anymore. And that's about it for my trip report. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm up to 3 rides on Guardians. And sorry about that first review that I gave. I understand it now. It took me a couple of rides because I was too busy recording. But I can definitely follow the story now after riding it a few times. Yeah, I on my 3rd attempt, I was able to secure a fast pass, or what do they call it? Virtual queue for it. So I tried on opening day and couldn't do it. I tried like the Sunday after and couldn't do it. And now this time it worked. So anyway, I don't know. Do you want to talk about Guardians and all too?
Yeah. And let me just say, like the first time that I got to ride it, the first day when we were there at 7 a.m., I was not able to get in the virtual queue. I was in the park then at 1 o'clock and I was able to get it. And John, you were actually in our party on the app at that time, so we were able to get you in there as well. And the 1 p.m. I was a little nervous because I got off Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi wasn't working. I was back near the France Pavilion, and you had suggested to me as you entered the park, we talked a little bit, and you suggested maybe going on the network, on data. So I went on data, and as it turned out, the data was even pretty weak back there by the France Pavilion. It was LTE. It wasn't even 4G or 5G or anything like that. So I got really worried that we weren't going to get in. And sure enough, when one popped up, we did get in. We were able to schedule, and that went very smoothly. I felt we later on got on the ride and everything, and so my general feeling is the ride queue unbelievable. And I'm not going to go too in depth with it because we've already kind of covered that on that one podcast, but it's next level. It's a next level family themed coaster, in my opinion. Looking at the track, if you looked at the track in some of the early pictures and things, you wouldn't really think much of it. It just looks like an off-the-shelf coaster. But the Imagineers have done a great job on this particular ride, just combining the technology with great big massive screens, kind of creating a story and actually trying to fit it into Epcot in a way that it's almost like a pavilion. And it is a pavilion. I mean, it's like an alien pavilion that they've shoved into Epcot. So I think that's pretty neat. I think they honor old school Epcot a little bit with some things, and the ride itself is next level. It's the ride mechanic. It's not really the coaster so much. The coaster does like normal things. It's the ride itself, the train and the swiveling, how the car itself moves when you're in it. And motion sickness wise, like my family is prone to motion sickness. I am not, but my family is, and they didn't get motion sick. So again, everyone's different. Some people will probably feel it. John and I talked a little bit before the podcast that if your focus is in a certain direction or you're not looking at certain things, maybe you could get motion sickness. But as far as like ride queues, it's among the best in my opinion. As far as the ride, it's a next level type ride. It's well worth your time. On the second day that I was in Epcot, we had evening magic because we were staying at a deluxe resort, and I was not able to get in the 7 a.m. queue or the 1 p.m. queue, and later on in the day I was actually on the in the queue for the Frozen ride, and one of the cast members asked me, did you get to ride Guardians today? And I said no, I didn't. We couldn't get on the queue. And I said we did get in yesterday. And she said to me, well, you're weighted, your attempts are weighted, so if you've already rode it, and if you've rode it multiple times, the system, they know it, and they don't give you as good an opportunity to ride it in the system as somebody who's riding it for the first time, or somebody who's a resort guest. She's so in talking to this cast member, John, I really got the feeling that they're running some type of algorithm on the virtual queue that takes into account whether you've rode it, whether you're a resort guest, and things of that nature. I mean, I don't know what else goes into that. There could be other factors. I don't know. But I've just found that interesting, and I think people should keep that in their minds whenever they're trying to get in that virtual queue. It's something that there's been rumors about for a long time, especially with the Rise of Resistance queues. And it always seemed to be a weighted thing going on there. Like you couldn't ride Rise of Resistance for a long time, and I was always able to get in that virtual queue as a resort guest. So
my wife, even once she finally was able to get a pass to go back, and she even tried with some day tickets she had left, she could not get in. She just couldn't get in. And again, maybe the algorithm continued to say, oh, she's a cast member, don't let her have it or something. I don't know, even though she wasn't for a while at that point. But Yeah, that's great news though, because companies and people never misuse algorithms.
Yeah,
That's why everyone loves YouTube, Instagram so much. There's no need for you to decide what you want to look at. They'll decide for you, and there's no need for you to worry about who sees your stuff. They'll decide that for you based on their algorithms. So
right.
now Disney will say, we'll decide who goes on the ride, when, and why, based on our friendly algorithms that are they're so fair that they're not fair.
Yeah,
Yay.
exactly.
Perfect.
Well,
Yeah, there's nobody better to control reality than large corporations. They do
yeah,
so well.
right. You're absolutely right, and they never abuse that type of thing, do
No,
they?
never
Yeah.
heard of such a thing.
I will say I did that same day get in the 6 o'clock queue, and if you stay at Epcot or if you stay at a resort, at a deluxe resort, and I was staying at DVC resorts other than one night, you are able to attend the Evening Magic event that they have, and that's for the last 2 hours, or for 2 hours after the park closes, you can ride certain rides, and Guardians is one of the rides, and so you get a virtual queue opportunity if you're one of those guests at 6 p.m. Now, you do not have to be in the park for that particular virtual queue. You can be outside the park and try and score it. I was at the beach club at the time by one of the swimming pools whenever I was able to score it. So I did get a 6 p.m. Virtual queue, the opportunity. At that point, I wasn't able to ride it until about 9:20 or 9:30 or something like that. So let me just say, when I rode it this time, interesting, brand new ride, and in the middle of the ride, it would not make it up a hill, so the coaster stopped. It coasted backwards, and they had to relaunch it. On the relaunch, as we ran through the script, the music, and everything that goes on within the ride was no longer going on within the ride. They were not working because they already played through as if the coaster went through. So those events that happen as you're riding the coaster are not coordinated with the car itself. It is it's running, and it's based on whether the ride itself is actually functioning the way it should. Like, that coaster needs to get to certain points because when it launches, it starts the entire show, and that coaster has to get there. If it doesn't get there, and if it does like it did for me and go backwards, it doesn't make it up a hill, that show keeps going. And whether you're there or not, it keeps going. And when it's over, the show is ended. It's dark. So that's what happened. We went through. It was basically dark through the rest of the half of the coaster, the second half of the coaster. After we got off, a few of us had mentioned this to a cast member. And so then a manager came out and ushered us from the back of the coaster, which it's only a door separating the exit to the ride queue. The ride queue right where you load on, where you board the coaster itself. So we were ushered in and got to ride it again. So I got to ride it a third time. That previous time I was in one of the back cars. This time I was in the middle. The first time I rode it, I was in a middle car. I prefer the middle to the back. I think you can see the show. You can see a lot of things. John and I were discussing that before the podcast, that the ride is almost designed to see the show from the middle, with the screens and everything like that. So
yeah, I agree, because I've ridden it 3 times so far. Once in the front, once in the back, once in the middle. The first time in the front, things seemed like they went by so fast, and I had to look to try to find what's going on, or the projections and this and that. And in the back, it was better, but it's still not perfect. And last time I rode it, I was in the middle somewhere, and I feel like it presented the projections and the story perfectly without having to turn my head too much. And turning your head may be what causes motion sickness. So if my advice is, if you have a tendency to motion sickness, I'm sure you're not going to be waiting for the front or back anyway, but try to get the middle.
Yeah, and also focus on what they want you to focus on, like the events on the screens and things like that. I think if you do that, you won't get as motion sickness.
Yeah, just remember the car turns to show you what you're supposed to look at, so you don't have to turn your head too much.
Yeah, so if you go and you look at what's going on in the car next to you or behind you or whatever, you might get a tendency to have motion sickness there. But the third time I rode it there, it went as it should. Again, all I can say is excellent ride. I just think it's a great it's a good job. They've done a great job with this ride. Let's hope it stays functioning. It doesn't break down like twice a day, like Rise of Resistance or, some of these other new rides. If it functions the way it should, and if everything works as it should going forward, they did it. I think they knocked it out of the park. I just think they've done a great job. There's things they could have done that maybe would improve it. But not much. I don't need the animatronics that were promised at one point. It would have been cooler to see like a walking Groot or something like that. But I don't need it to make that ride a next level great ride for me and a must do at Disney World. So I think it's a must do. If you can get on it, get on it.
Yeah, I tend to think of it like I said before, like a super Space Mountain. So, there's no animatronics in Space Mountain, and well, actually there is though in the queue. Never mind.
Yeah, there is. There's, that's right. An astronaut,
robot
right?
Waiter and space
robot.
Dog.
There's an astronaut in there somewhere, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So you're right.
You're right.
John.
Yeah.
You're
I didn't
absolutely
even
right.
think of that.
When you say Super Space Mountain, what I look at is, there's certain portions of the ride, without spoiling anything too much. There's portions of the ride that really, really reminds you of Space Mountain. And if you've ridden it, and if you haven't, you should know at some point soon. But there's just things about it that really put you in mind. I'm not saying that they maybe went for that. It doesn't seem like they were trying to make a Super Space Mountain. It just seems like it's a natural progression of the ride itself that made it that way.
My theory is that this is successful, and here I'll go back to it again, but I feel like most of the redos that they've done for years now have been not better than what it replaces for the most part. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard, this was an idea that was there before they added IP to it. They were going to make it, the Big Bang Rock Coaster or something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So again, this is an old Imagineering idea. I feel like the newer ideas have not been very good, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'm hoping that the Moana water thing's like that too, because again, I think that was an old idea that they, threw Moana into, which is one of their, that's Disney's exec's biggest move is how about we jam Moana down in there? It's like, yep, now it's good. So hopefully it's an awesome attraction that happens to have Moana in it, because I was going to say too, the Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like it would be really easy to retheme that to whatever you want, and it would still be awesome. You know what I mean? You could retheme. You could, if somebody took Disney over and said, we need to get Epcot back to learning things again, because everybody in the country is pretty dumb at this point. We need to teach them something. Maybe I know that would never happen, but in my warped mind, they could easily change this to any number of things and it would still be awesome,
Yeah, I agree with that. And they could have made it. It doesn't have to be Guardians to be successful. Like, I can definitely see a path where this ride could have been any number of other things and it would have been good.
I kind of want to ride that Big Bang ride where it shows, the Big Bang and creating all the stars, and imagine having the all around you being galaxies and stars as you're shooting through and just flying through. I might even like it better. I don't know. Like I really might. But again, I'm weird. I always enjoyed learning things, and I love planetariums. And so I'm a weirdo, but I probably would like the other idea better. But one other important thing to note: I did not get to the park until around like 2:30 on this past Wednesday. I had a half a day of work, and I had to go on an appointment with my wife at Disney, so we did not get there. I don't even know when our pass expired, but basically the return time came and went. So when we got there, we went up to somebody in the customer service umbrella, and when we said we had them, I just expired. She goes, "Oh, you don't even need to come here for that." So all those other people surrounding them are people trying to talk their way into getting on without tickets.
Yeah,
because
that's it.
When we said we actually got it, we missed the window. She was like, "Oh, you don't need to come here for that. Just go right up and they'll adjust it." So the cool thing is, if you get this thing, but you won't be there, this is a advantage local guy. So finally an advantage for me. Because if I'm going to Epcot on, say, Tuesday evening, I might try for a pass. And if I get it and I'm supposed to be there at 11 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. I'll show up at 5 and be like, "Hey, I'm a little late." And they apparently, as of now, they'll let me on then. So
I think they are. I got to say, a little tip for other people as well. As you approach that queue, and I don't feel like there's good signage to tell you where the queue is. Like, you don't know where the entrance is.
I know because it's the same as Ellen's.
Right,
That's where we went for that.
Right, and if you remember that, that's great. But a lot of people won't, especially new people. So there is a crowd. There's like a lineup of people trying to get into the store, which, by the way, I never got into. There's a lineup of people trying to get into the store at the end. So if you see that line, you're almost compelled to go over that way. It's on the opposite side, and there typically isn't a line on the opposite side. It's just people virtual queuing, and there'll be a bunch of people just like walking or standing around by ropes, and those people are waiting until 5 minutes before their virtual queue comes up. There will be people like milling around. If they're standing there in front of cast members by the rope and stuff, and your queue is actually up, just walk around them. Just walk around them, walk through them, and go towards the ride itself. You will have to band in or whatever, or with your card or whatever to prove that you've been called. But like John said, even if you're late, they're going to let you in. So I do want to mention one thing that was a criticism of this ride from people shortly after it started. They in the queue itself, they criticized the Star-Lord performance, saying it was stiff and this and that, and I'm like, that I just think that's people picking on Chris Pratt, to be honest with you, because they don't like some stupid political stance or something like that he has taken, or that he's religious or something. I think it's complete crap, and I'm going to say it is crap. It's just people acting, they can't get over themselves and how they feel about politics and about that particular individual. I don't care what Chris Pratt stands for or anything like that. There was nothing out of the ordinary about his performance as Star-Lord and anything on this ride.
I never even heard that. Yeah,
oh, it's just the same people that can't get over themselves and can't get over their stupid, like they just can't. There are a certain subset of people that just can't get past politics in their life, and they're miserable human beings, and they just can't get past it, especially when it comes to a ride or the way someone feels about something. There's a lot of celebrities that I don't agree with, but that doesn't prevent me from like watching some excellent performance or enjoying a movie that they're in. So people need to get over themselves. And I gotta tell you, if you listen to those people, just like maybe it's time that we start like shutting those people off of social media that can't get past their own miserable garbage when it comes to that stuff.
The best example of reality, though, is Johnny Depp has really extreme like political views, and he's kind of a nut, and doing drugs and whatever. I don't really care about any of that. I enjoy his movies, and I don't like to see people fired over rumors and stuff. And
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things, and Disney's more guilty of it than everybody, judging people based on nonsense. It's like, I don't care how many times a week Chris Pratt goes to church, and I don't care that Johnny Depp literally said he wanted to like assassinate the president or something. Like that's pretty crazy. But again, they both make really good movies. I don't really care what they do in their personal time.
I
and
don't.
and everybody, including Disney and everyone else, should stop judging people based on what they do outside of that. Again, unless they do something and end up in prison or something, then maybe you can start talking about it. But outside of that, people need to be left alone. Hollywood is filled with weird personalities. And again, I watch them for the movie, not because I think they're good people in any way. So
Yeah,
and stop.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like I really think that is what that had to do with when people just don't give Chris Pratt a break now because he goes to church or he does this or he does whatever. I don't care what he does. I mean, people need to give it a break.
Yeah, and I don't go to church, but I respect everybody's what they do outside of whatever. Like it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that people would think that.
Yeah, so his performance seemed he seemed fine to me. I think it was like very much part of the character. So everything I saw was very much part of the character. That's how that character is. So I don't know. People just need to relax.
I guess he's one of the last Hollywood people that's still working that you're allowed to attack. So they just gotta go at him. So.
Well, and fortunate for him, and the great thing about him is he just rises above it and doesn't get involved in it, a lot of the stuff. So he, he's done a good job of avoiding a lot of those pitfalls because he doesn't react to them. And I hope he continues to be that way. People that tend to do that in Hollywood tend to rise above it and have long-lasting careers.
Well, speaking of that, I think Jurassic World, the next one's coming out. And I don't care if it's a terrible movie, and I don't care which actors I like or don't like. I'm going to go see it because dinosaurs and because I miss going to the movies and watching dinosaurs. So I'm going.
Yeah, me too. And
I don't know who voted for who in that movie.
I don't even care. I mean, it's just like I'm going to go see it, right? Further, let me just add to this too. It's done very well in its advanced showings overseas, so it will do well. It will do well. All right, John. So is that all you have for the parks?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't do much else. I did get a burger in Connections Cafe. I tried the Mediterranean burger. It was okay. The burger part was good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. I'm beginning to be more disappointed with the food there, though, over time. That it started out so good. I was very excited, and now it's getting to be okay. And the other bad part was there, too. There was a family sitting very close to us, and the two young kids were loudly coughing without even putting their hand over their mouth. And now my wife pretty much has a cold. So we're back to that. And they weren't even eating. I'm like, guys, don't bring your sick kids into the middle of a cafeteria type setting to cough without their hands, just coughing. And I'm like, man, they probably spread so much sickness in there. And again, I'm torn on it. Like I go to the parks all the time, so my immune system's got to work. There's nothing I can do. But that's just overboard, though. It's like if I have a cold, I'm not going to go in there, just sit down and not even eat, just cough loudly around people. I'm like, my goodness, what are these people doing? But anyway, I thought that was funny, but not funny.
Oh gosh, yeah.
She literally has been, and it's funny how quick it happened. It's like, man, by that night she was starting to feel sick, and next morning it's like, well, that was a quick spreading one. That little kids, and again, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And that area that I did actually eat in there the second day we were there, and I'll cover that next week. But that is a massive area. It's way bigger. Like you can't even look at your videos or anyone else's videos and really judge how massive that building is, or at least that seating. It's all in a round, and they have seats everywhere, and it's still hard as heck to find a seat in there during busy periods. You know what I mean?
Well,
So.
you know what else I wanted to mention? Now that you say that too, my wife really wanted a coffee before we left for the drive home. The line was so big at Starbucks, and it was only half open. Only one half of the thing was open. The line was completely full. There was probably about 40 people waiting for their coffee, and I said, we don't really have time to do this. And she's like, yeah, this is going to be, it's like, you want coffee. That might be the last thing you do that day because it's going to be that long.
Oh, gosh.
What happened? Like half, maybe they can't find people to work, but half capacity Starbucks in the middle of the day when Starbucks was still near World Showcase, the line was never that big. Now the line is just huge, and they only opened up half of it, and they didn't seem to be running that half well either. With all you know, at Starbucks you order and then you wait.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people waiting was unbelievable. So it made me think, even once you get through the 30-minute line or so, you might have another 30 or 40 minutes to wait because nobody was getting anything. But they must have been having trouble that day. But I just wanted to mention, that did not look very well. But
unfortunately, I don't think they have a virtual, I don't think you can order online there either at Starbucks portion of it.
Oh, and since this is getting long, but since I didn't talk a lot about the parks this week, I did want to mention I was actually in a casting building from Disney too on Wednesday, and not for me. I don't want a job with Disney, but I have to tell you, those places are very depressing. Like, man, run down buildings, the backside of Disney is not attractive. It's really, they do not do anything. I was in one of the break rooms and stuff too, and I'm like, man, this is prison break room. Like, it doesn't feel very old, beat up, bad feeling. You're not allowed to video or record anything. So I wouldn't do that anyway. I don't want to make them look bad. I was there, and man, I don't know why anybody wants to work for them. And my wife used to work for them, and she's like, oh, you've never seen the inner workings at Disney, And I'm like, oh, I haven't, but man, weird. But anyway, I wanted to mention that. It sure isn't magical. Get into the real offices and stuff.
Yeah, that's a shame. I guess, I guess they must think that it doesn't have to be that all the things happen on stage, but still, even if you walk backstage, like let's say you walk backstage to like during busy periods of time, and they open in the Magic Kingdom, they'll open that little corridor that takes you from the front of the park back to Tomorrowland. There's nothing magical about that either. I mean, it's just as like and you've seen it on your marathons and stuff, those types of areas. It's just not
just made me
great
think
show.
When you hear about like Facebook or Google's offices, they look like wonderlands of just beautiful places to work and play and special things and this. And it's like Disney looks like they took an abandoned warehouse from like 1980 and just like said, there you go. We're not even going to fix it up. Just whatever. There it is. It's like...
It's like they almost took the Walmart approach, just Spartan behind the stage, And,
oh, yeah, it really did remind me of that. And again, it's not a big deal. I don't work there, but it makes me think I wouldn't want to work in that environment. Like even the small companies I've worked for had nicer environments to work in, like sunlight and plants and just, light touches. This is, like I said, it just seems so... not Disney, which is why there's signs all over. Do not take pictures. Do not take video. It's like, well, no problem there.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody wants to see that anyway.
Not at all. All right, John. Well, we might as well get on to our topic then. gonna talk about the hotels I stayed at on this trip. And this was, again, if you're familiar with a previous episode where I kind of talked about this adventure that we were going on, it was wild and it was going to be crazy and somewhat tiring, because it was we were going to stay at multiple resorts, and it was all those things. It was absolutely wild, crazy, tiring, and I probably wouldn't do it again. I'm sure most people anticipated that I probably would feel like I wouldn't do it again. But we got such great deals on these deluxe resorts, and we couldn't get, because it was Memorial Day weekend, or the week following up to our chasing, up to that. We weren't going to get decent priced resort stays, so that's why we were able to find these like groupings of nights here and there, or a night here and there, for very reasonable prices in deluxe accommodations. In fact, our DVC resorts that we stayed at that are considered deluxe were priced better than a lot of the value resorts. So we couldn't have stayed at Pop Century for as cheap as we stayed at some of these deluxe resorts. In fact, we even stayed one night at Art of Animation, and it was the most expensive night we had. So to begin with, we started out at Saratoga Springs on our trip. But even going back to that, let me just say, when I left work on Tuesday night, my kids got off the school bus. We got in the car right away. We started making the 1,000-mile journey in my car. We stopped halfway down in North Carolina. We got up in the morning the next day and got on the road early, about 7 a.m. ish, and made our way down. I like to stop in Daytona Beach at Buc-ee's, and if anyone has yet to experience a Buc-ee's, basically it's almost like a mini Walmart. I mean, this convenience store is just fantastic. And if you live anywhere or travel anywhere from, say, North Carolina to Pennsylvania or Ohio, you're familiar with Wawa and Sheetz and stores like that. And the Buc-ee's is like another level. I mean, the cleanest bathrooms I've ever been in, massive bathrooms too. They're just great. Lots of gas pumps, cheap merchandise. I can't recommend that enough. So that's almost part of the trip as well. I had to throw that in there because I just love going to Buc-ee's. And if you live in Texas or somewhere like that, you already know. I mean, Buc-ee's is the place. The food and everything that they have, it's just great and reasonably priced. The people that work there, great. I mean, they treat you great. I just really enjoy going there. From Daytona, then we drove right to Orlando on the I-4, of course, and we got to Saratoga Springs and started our stay there. From check-in, everything was really smooth. We did the virtual check-in, like the online thing. So our room was given right to us on the app. From the MDE app, we got our room number. We went right to it. We're packed based on our night stay. So like our bags and everything we labeled our bags as to what hotel we were staying in what night. So everything was planned out pretty well. You almost have to do that when you do a trip like this. So Saratoga Springs, we got in. I walked into the lobby and the smell right away hits you. The cleanliness of the resort, it's just clean lines everywhere. It's really pretty, really pretty resort lobby. We walked into the marketplace portion there and got ourselves the resort mugs, which, by the way, let me just say, if you buy the Disney Resort mugs and you're doing a split stay, that mug will apply to anything on your split stay. So any resort you go to, you can use that during the length of your stay.
And I'll add to that, and if you live near Disney and you like coffee and iced tea, you can keep that mug for months and months until because they don't have an RFID chip for water, coffee, or the iced tea machines.
I did
Just
not know
decided.
that. That's an awesome tip. That's great. Yeah, I mean, Saratoga Springs, like I said, the lobby, I don't know about the restaurants. We didn't really eat in the restaurants. The store at Saratoga Springs, a little smallish, and the cafeteria a little small compared to some of the other resorts. But man, they make up for it in the beauty of their house there. I don't know what they call it. At Old Key West, you'd call it the hospitality house, but their main building there where you check in and everything, the smell, the feel of that place, way beyond my expectation. I can honestly say Saratoga is definitely one of my favorite resorts now. When you walk out of Saratoga, like even the grounds are well kept. It just looks great. The pools, my gosh, the pools are just excellent. There's big water slides on each one of the bigger pools. One pool is by the main house. The other one is across their little pond, like lake area. And even that pool has a big slide to it, and it's a little different. So it's like they're almost like mini water parks. I really enjoyed the pools there as well. We did take the kids to the pool. The bridge that walks across the pond or lake area just adds to the resort, I feel. Just a neat little addition there. The buildings look great. The room, very nice and clean lines. It looks like it's gone through a refurb recently. I really enjoyed the room itself.
Now, we stayed there many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed the resort. I enjoyed the pool. But the one thing that I thought, though, when I was there, I got the feeling like it felt like it was almost residential, like apartments or condos or something. Is what it felt like. It made me think there's got to be places in Florida that feel just like this, that people actually live in full time. Like you park in front of the building and you're on this floor or that floor. And I'm like, this feels like an apartment more than a hotel. You know, that's the feeling I got from it. But I guess Key West is probably like that too.
I was going to say Old Key West is almost exactly the same as what you just described. I can definitely see where you're coming from there. And even the rooms themselves kind of felt that way, you know. I didn't mind it. Like, I kind of like that, you know. But
oh, I did want to ask you too. I don't know. I don't think you got to it yet. But when I stayed there too, I am not a fan of Disney Springs at all. But it was nice to take that boat across, and you could actually walk to and from there too. So I don't know.
You can.
I know you're only there one day.
Well, for this one, we were there for 2 nights. We actually stayed 2 nights, and we didn't make it over to Disney Springs at all on this trip, unfortunately. We were going to because we wanted to eat at Blaze Pizza and just kind of walk around a little bit, but we did not make it over there. It just was so busy and hectic, and the kids wanted to do the pools, so we just never made it, unfortunately. But I definitely think Saratoga, if you like going to Disney Springs, it's got all those advantages that you just mentioned. I do know where the bridge is, that goes across to Disney Springs, the walking path, and the boat, definitely. Again, we just didn't take advantage of it. But we could have. That was a nice thing. I will do it if I stay there again, and I do see myself staying there again at some point.
Well, I'm glad you like it, though, because it's one of the less popular DVCs. So you'll probably be able to get good deals in the future and stuff, and you know what I mean? And honestly, any hotel on property, it's close enough, especially if you have your own car. There's never a problem,
Which we did, and you're right. And the thing about Saratoga, and I'll say Old Key West, is your parking situation is way better than any of the other hotels, I think. Old Key West and Saratoga, you're going to park near where you're staying at every time, and I like that a lot. We stayed in the paddock portion of Old Key West, which is kind of quiet, and it's kind of towards the back of the resort. And I really kind of liked that. There wasn't a lot of noise back there at all. And that's something that I found at Old Key West, too, in certain places you stay. So to sum it up, Saratoga didn't really experience a lot of the dining. The store, the shop, a little on the small side. Everything else, though, the rooms were clean, really nice. Obviously, they went through a refurb recently. I really I enjoyed the rooms, and the resort itself. Great for kids, particularly if you're near the pools. I love the pools a lot. Transportation is pretty good there. It's easy to get around. I just there's a lot of things I like about Saratoga Springs, but yeah, I would recommend it. I would recommend people to go. Although maybe I shouldn't because I really want that availability. Again, it's just one of those nice resorts you walk into and there's a smell in the main house, and people make candles for that stuff, and I understand why. The theming is definitely upstate New York, horse racing type things, old school like upstate New York. And it just had this nice classic feel to it. So I like Saratoga.
Yeah, see, and I didn't like that feel because I was never a fan of upstate New York. But like I said, the way things have been going, that classic feel is kind of nice, Like it's I have a better appreciation for it now than I used to.
Our next stay was Animal Kingdom Lodge. We stayed at Kidani, and all I can say is we did not get a Savannah view, and I would consider our view a swamp view because it was basically swamp from our balcony that we could see, and road. So it was way at the back of the resort, and we expected that. We stayed in a Savannah view before, so we knew what we were in for. I did a review on Animal Kingdom Lodge before, and I know we've talked about that a lot, John, so I won't get too much into it. I think, the Animal Kingdom Lodge speaks for itself with the savannas and the animals and the food. The food is so good there. The actual main areas, the check-in areas are just unbelievable. It's like mini museums of African culture. The resort stores, particularly at the main lodge, is unbelievable. It's probably among the best in all of Disney. It's a huge store. Lots of things you can find in there. Interestingly enough, because of supply chain issues, and I learned this because I talked to one of the cast members in the store, there's not a lot of resort specific stuff in the stores right now, in any of them around the resorts. They're just starting to get stuff in now, and most of it's just pins. So there's not a lot of magnets. There's not a lot of stuff coming in right now.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, I'm never going to remember it later to talk about. So I wanted to mention I did go into the store for Guardians of the Galaxy. It's small, and really there was nothing in there that I wanted. I wasn't that impressed with the merchandise. So just a side note, because I did wait to go in there, and my wife and I went in, and we were like, small, and yeah. And you can get all the stuff at the Connections Cafe, too. They do have one of those screens in there, like they have in the queue, where the person comes up, and he's like the shopkeeper talking to you. But besides that, extremely small little shop.
So it's not at the level of like Dock On Doors and Galaxy's Edge.
No, I wouldn't. If you don't get in, I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Yeah, I there's a long line queuing up for that every time I went by it, and I was like, man, is that even worth it? If you can get the merchandise over at the Creation store, why even go in there? But that's good. That's good that people should be aware of that, because it's going to be disappointing after waiting in line a long time. Yeah, I just want to say, as far as Animal Kingdom Lodge goes, I think it's time for an update on some of the rooms. There were things in our room that were kind of like, you could definitely tell they've been around a while, and they were falling, like things were falling apart in the room. It was weird. They have a new in-room TV system. It's like this weird resort system. It was neat because it said like "Welcome Murphy family," and
Oh
so
yeah, I've seen that now.
yeah, so they do that at Animal Kingdom Lodge. I haven't seen it anywhere else on this trip, but
Yeah. I recommend they put Moana in there. Just liven it up.
I don't want them to. I want them to stay non-IP myself, but I mean, they could probably do a spruce up or something of the rooms, like maybe throw some new carpet down or some new flooring of some type.
Well, if a little Moana's in there would be all right. Just
That's the
some.
wrong resort, John. That would have to be Lion King
Oh
there.
yeah, they're gonna redo the Kona Cafe now, and that was my first thing. I said, oh, they're gonna add Moana in there probably.
Oh
So
gosh,
there you go.
hope not.
Moana, the
But
best.
yeah, I'll say the cut I'll have on Animal Kingdom Lodge is the parking situation in the court, like in relation to where your room is. It's not good, and it's confusing at times the way it's laid out.
Which building were you in?
We were in.
Kadani or Jumbo House?
It was Kidani.
Oh,
Jumbo House is a little different because Jumbo, I think they're a little more organized as far as how they park people and where everything's at. But
I was gonna say I stayed at Kadani once when I had DVC,
mhm.
and once I found out the best place to park in conjunction to the elevator that led right to my room, then it was good. But
Yeah.
until I could figure that out, it was a mess. But once I did that, then I was like, oh, if I park in this area here, I literally go right up in my rooms there. It's great, But since you're only there a day, it's probably not going to happen.
It's funny you said that because we actually drove up to the main house then, and of course we went to the park and all that, all those activities during that day. And when I came back that evening, I did kind of figure out exactly what you said, where the right elevator was. Once I had figured that out, I was able to kind of put it together. And you're right, it wasn't that far away. But it is, if you're there only a night or a day or whatever, it is kind of confusing. It really is, like the layout and everything for the resort, particularly at Kidani. You can definitely get turned around in those resorts, and it is massive. It's way bigger than what you think in there.
Yeah, and it's missing the big grand lobby and all that over there.
Over there it is. Yeah.
I always miss that when I go over there. I do love Sanaa, but it's just a tiny little lobby and then just massive amounts of rooms. So
yeah, it is a beautiful lobby, even though it's smallish. It is nice. And actually, the Savannah portion where you get out from the lobby and go look at the Savannah, it's nice as well. But it is nothing compared to the other building. I mean, Jumbo House's lobby is massive, and their Savannah view, their Savannah thing off of the lobby is way better. I like it better. So the next night we stayed at Old Key West, and Old Key West is like an old friend of ours. This is the fourth time we've stayed at Old Key West, and we stayed in Building 63, which is right near the main entrance, and it's right near the lobby. The hospitality house they call, right near the pool. So everything was right there. And if you can get there, if you can stay there, I recommend like staying as close as you can to the hospitality house. That main pool, the what do they call it? The sandcastle pool, is pretty neat. It's a nice pool for kids. Has a nice slide to it. But with that said, again, you're close to the restaurant, you're close to the store there, you're close to everything you need to be close to. Again, all I can say, I've talked about Old Key West before. I'm not going to get into it too much. It's very similar to Saratoga. It's a very big resort. Transportation can be an issue depending on where you're staying. If you're taking the buses, we drove everywhere when we stayed there. But Old Key West is like an old friend, and I really like it. I'll stay there in the future again. We enjoy that resort. There's no, I mean, it's just solid. It's just a solid place to stay, and accessibility. If you're renting a room through a DVC pre-booking or something like that, it's easy to get into, and it's not as expensive as some of the other ones. So
Yeah, I always heard since that's the original one, the rooms are very big there too. They're oversized rooms because that's how they used to do it.
yeah, there are some on property. I think Saratoga is probably similar in that regard. The rooms are similar in Saratoga as far as their layouts go. It looks like it hasn't had the maybe the refresh that Saratoga has had, but still the rooms are in really good shape still, and it's quiet. Uh, Old Key West is a very quiet resort, very relaxed and laid back. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, we stayed at that one once too, and I liked it, but it was so we were so far away from the main building that even that was
Yeah.
a very long haul. So that part I didn't like, and I didn't like the bus service because you
Yeah.
got picked up and then you literally drove around the resort for the next 20 minutes, stopping at
Yep.
more places, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm always in a hurry, so it drove me nuts to do that.
Me too. It's very much like if you stayed at like a one of the larger resorts on property, like the Caribbean Beach or one of those types of resorts. The bus service is bad. It's very large and takes you a long time to get out of there. So I'd recommend driving or trying to stay either towards the end of the bus loop or depending on whether you want to get going or if you're more relaxed and you want to be one of the first ones off, staying in the opposite direction. But I always like staying near the main entrance. And again, I do like the resort itself, but the bus service can be an issue. The next place we stayed is Art of Animation. And John, you've stayed at Art of Animation before, right?
No,
Oh, you
no.
haven't
I've
stayed
never
there?
stayed there. Nope. Pop Century many, many, many times. Never.
So, yeah, if you've stayed at Pop Century, Art of Animation isn't going to be much different. It's got the big icons all over the resort. The only thing I will say about Art of Animation, in my opinion, unless you got kids that really love the theming in the rooms, which we stayed in a Little Mermaid room. Unless you got kids that really appreciate the Little Mermaid or whatever the Cars or any of those IPs, I don't think it's worth the price over Pop Century. It's the same room, the same exact room. It's just got theming, IP theming, and it's the same exact layout. And the pool, I will say, the pool is looks spectacular, but this is one of the places we didn't get to do the pool. We just didn't have time. Plus, it rained that day a little bit. So as far as the layout goes, it's not going to be much different from Pop Century. I did like the cafeteria, and you've noticed that before, John. Didn't you think that the cafeteria was a little bit of an upgrade over Pop Century?
Yeah. It had some great options. It was set up very well. Similar shape because they were probably both they were. It was built to duplicate it originally, and I think that building was one that stayed the same. But yeah, just very well done though.
It is very well done. I think as far as the food goes, there might be a slight upgrade over Pop Century. We did eat in that cafeteria in the evening, and I actually did something thinking of you, John. I always trash Disney pizza, right? And you said you kind of like Disney pizza. So I thought, okay, Art of Animation, I know they have a little bit different pizza there, I think. So we ordered a pepperoni pizza from Art of Animation and sat in the cafeteria and ate it. We got some breadsticks and stuff like that. That's basically what we ate. The pizza wasn't bad. It was okay. It wasn't horrible. The breadsticks weren't great. The red sauce that they use, the marinara, it wasn't that good. And the breadsticks were kind of like, so. They just didn't have a lot of flavor to them. The pizza was okay. So I will say, like, I'm still not a big fan of your standard Disney pizza, and even at Art Animation, I think it's just a little, it just doesn't have what you find up here in the Northeast, I think, in pizza. So I'm a bit of a pizza snob. But we did that. So after Art of Animation, and by the way, the Little Mermaid section is really cool. I love the big Ursula icon. And I noticed on your social media, John, you just recently took a picture of the big Ursula at Art of Animation. So
yeah, that's always one of my favorite areas. But I tend to post Ursula more though, because I really like. There's not a lot of Disney characters that I like, but I do like Ursula. Like I think she's a good character. I always say Ariel and her new boyfriend double crossed her and murdered her instead of keeping with the deal. So yeah. Ursula's not the bad guy. She made the deal based on she didn't lie. She told her what's going to happen, and she got double crossed.
Just like they did for Maleficent, they should make an Ursula movie that makes her look like, paints her in a more anti-hero light, not a villain, right? And makes her actually look like a more misunderstood villain.
Ursula is a businesswoman. That's all. She made the deal. If she didn't like that deal, why didn't she negotiate? No. How about this? It's like she took the deal and said, "Don't worry, me and my boyfriend will kill her later." And just, well, we don't need to be obligated to this deal.
Well, Disney won't want you, even though Disney probably operates like Ursula, they wouldn't want you to think that. So, they wouldn't definitely want to put capitalism in a favorable light.
Isn't it funny? The big heartless, faceless corporations, they always say that they're on the good side. In Star Wars, they're the rebellion. They're with you. It's like, I think the Empire finally got smart and tricked you guys.
Yeah.
It's like, Amazon's my best friend. They look out for me. It's like, no, they don't.
Yeah, that's right.
Not.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that I often say trillion-dollar companies merge with the government and claim that they're on your side. It's like, I'm pretty sure Emperor Palpatine is right back there saying, "Excellent, yes."
Yeah. And of course, history shows us a different story when things like that happen. So,
who cares?
History. What's that?
That's for stupid.
You won't need
it's
that.
It's all different.
Yeah, that's right. So I do the Art of Animation thing. The one thing that I really noticed that is different from, say, Pop Century are the plants. The plants are actually themed towards the buildings and towards the sections. So particularly in the Little Mermaid section, man, it's like they're all kind of, they sort of look like coral, right? And so it's really cool. Like, I love that about it. And even some of the other sections of the resort are more themed towards what those themes are, such as the Lion King. The Lion King section has a really awesome looking playground for kids to run through. And
I need to go back and look at the plants. I think I'm always so distracted with the big statues of characters everywhere that I don't pay attention, because normally I'm very interested in plants and places like that.
Yeah, you would love it. I was thinking of you when I saw some of that stuff. So you would really dig that. The cars section, I didn't get over to the cars section, so I don't really know about that as clear on the other end, and we just didn't have time. And of course, a great thing about Art of Animation is always the Skyliner. And if you can get on a Skyliner resort, man, what a great mode of transportation. I think we were skeptical of it at first, but I really think it's great. I love the Skyliner. As long as it's operating and you don't have a storm to deal with.
Yeah, like I think a tropical storm is coming through here over the next couple of days, and I'd be disappointed if I got a Skyliner hotel and then it was stormy all day. It's like, man, this thing's just not going to open.
I have a friend down there right now, and I'm afraid as that tropical storm comes through, my guess is that he might be staying at one of those resorts, and when he gets on property, and that might not be good for them. Let me mention something. There was a quick thunderstorm coming through when we left Epcot that day, and we could not get on the Skyliner. We had exited the park back at the Skyliner, and everyone, all the guests, were looking around like, what what are we going to do? What are we going to do now that the Skyliner shut down? We don't want to go back in the park and go clear to the front of the park. So everyone started walking towards the boardwalk or towards the beach and yacht club. And so we walked towards the beach and yacht club. And when we walked up towards the buses thinking, okay, we're going to have to go to Disney Springs and then take a dang bus back to Art of Animation. Disney did not do that. Disney brought a resort bus. They literally brought a resort bus to the beach club, the beach and yacht club, knowing that this was going to be a situation. And I've never heard of them doing that, John. I didn't know they did that. So at beach club, at boardwalk, at the beach and yacht club and at boardwalk, they actually brought a resort bus there. They brought multiple resort buses to take care of the gap in the Skyliner situation. So we actually got on the resort bus there that was going to Art of Animation and Pop Century, and it was going somewhere else too. I can't remember where else it was going. Maybe to Caribbean Beach or somewhere like that. I don't know. But right at the Beach Club bus stop there, we were able to get on a bus that took us right to our resort, and we were the first stop, so we got right off. That's a little tip. So if you're ever in that situation, just walk to the Yacht and Beach Club. Go to the bus stops. They'll have a bus there for you, or go to the boardwalk. The boardwalk bus stop will also have resort buses there for you, should the Skyliner be shut down. The next day we went to Beach Club. That's where we stayed. That was our last night to, our last stay. And John, you gave me some tips on the beach club as far as the pools and everything, like Stormalong Bay's there with a lazy river, and there's a sand bottom pool there. Man, you were dead on. The beach club is such a great resort. It really is. We didn't have enough time to really appreciate it there. But the smell, as soon as you walk into the lobby, that smell just hits you. It is such a fresh, really relaxing smell in the beach club. The main house there, the main area is just beautiful. The DVC portion, the villas, they have you out a little far, so you got to walk. But it's not too bad. But man, the pool is it, man. The pool is so great. There's a water slide there with a ship, like an old ship. We didn't get to go on there, but the lazy river is great. The sand bottom pool, man, just a great experience there. We stayed on the 4th floor in the Beach Club Villas. Has a nice balcony. The rooms were really nice. I don't really have much. There's no complaints at the beach club. Again, I just think we just didn't have enough time to really appreciate it as much. There's on-site laundry. It's free if you're there for DVC. The store itself, they have a decent store. The restaurants, they have nice restaurants there. Again, we didn't experience that. We just weren't there very long, but they look nice. If you're into seafood. That's.
Oh yeah, I had breakfast there once, but I don't really like seafood.
Yeah, I'm not a fan myself.
That was not my favorite, but I did love the quick service, which is in the gift shop. They had melts there. I remember getting turkey melts, ham and cheese melts. They were very good.
Yeah, I saw them there. We didn't eat there. We had ate at other places. We'll get into that next week. But my overall thoughts on the beach club, I would stay there. It's nice. The room layouts are nice. What's really nice about there is it sleeps 5 people in some of the standard villa deluxe rooms. So that's really cool if you have a family that size. We only had 4, so we didn't need that. But they have one of those pull-out kind of kids' beds with the design in the background there, and they have a pull-out couch that's a queen size. But very clean room, very nice. Again, I got no complaints about the beach club, and within walking distance, it's right there at Epcot.
Yeah, and technically, it's a very I always enjoyed the walk to Hollywood Studios. So.
Yes, that's right. You could walk to Hollywood Studios too, going there. So it's in walking distance of both of them. If you don't want to walk to Hollywood Studios, you can take the Skyliner there. It's right there. I just really I really like staying at the beach club. Although if I had to say what my favorite resort was on this stay, Saratoga Springs takes it, and I know that would be odd for a lot of people to hear, but I just really like that. I like the feel of that resort. I didn't think I would, John. It was just it's shocking to me to say Saratoga, but
it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it really is. And again, like you said, availability is always there more than the other resorts. But if I had to stay at another resort in this list, it would either be Old Key West just because it feels like home, or Saratoga Springs because it impressed me so much. I would not do this again. I would definitely not stay in these resorts like in that frequency. It's too much. You don't get to enjoy your resort as much as you really should. It just doesn't feel relaxing as much as it probably should at your resort because you got to go somewhere else the next day.
How many do you think would be good? Do you think like maybe 2 places would be good? So I think
to a resort like a split stay resort, like if you did 2. Even if you did like 1 at Disney and 1 at Universal, or 2 at Disney or something like that, I think that would be enough. That would be it for me.
Yeah, because I was thinking like your Saratoga, if you stayed there a few days, you'd be able to mix in Disney Springs in there a little bit better, and like for Beach Club, if you were there a few days, you could mix in Epcot and Hollywood a little more effectively moving around too.
Yeah, I think if you like even if you stayed off property for a couple days and then you decided, okay, I'm going to do 2 nights at Saratoga and 2 nights at Beach Club for the things that you just mentioned, that would be okay. But I think just jumping around night after night, like single nights at resorts, that's not good. I wouldn't do that again. And again, I would say I like Animal Kingdom a lot. I love Animal Kingdom, the Animal Kingdom Lodge. But I would probably do what you did next time. I would stay at maybe a value at the other, not at Kidani, but at what's the other house called? The other resort?
Jumbo House.
Jumbo House. I would probably stay at Jumbo House just to make sure I got a better view. I think that there needs to be an update at Kidani Village to some of the rooms. And I definitely would not stay at Art of Animation again just because I love Pop Century so much and it's the same rooms. So I like that resort. I like the eye candy at Art of Animation, but you can go there even if you stay at Pop Century. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think the elevated price level of those rooms is worth it at all. And I think Pop Century gives you everything that you got for the most part at Art of Animation. So and
you can walk over to Art of Animation and do stuff there too. So if you were there long enough, you could be like, "Hey kids, we're going to go over to the Art of Animation pool."
That's what I'm saying. There's no advantage to staying, in my opinion, at Art of Animation. It's too pricey. And in fact, I will say this, the family rooms, like people get those family suites, I think it's considerably cheaper if you just book 2 adjoining rooms at Pop Century. So even if you stayed at the family rooms at one of the All-Star resorts, I think All-Star Music or something like that. I think All-Star Music or Movies have family suites. They're considerably cheaper than Art of Animation. They really rake you over the coals for those rooms over there. So I would recommend Pop Century. And if you feel like you have to do a family suite, which I don't think that's a good value myself. I think you just you just get 2 adjoining rooms at Pop Century. if you have to do the family suites, I would say the All-Star family suites are probably more worth it. Now, make sure you drive, because the bus system All-Star is horrible. It just is. It's just terrible. But they make you wait at those bus stops for a way long time. But yeah, I mean, that was the adventure, John. Again, the Beach Club pool is so great. Just like you said, it's got a zero entry pool. It's got the sand bottom pools. The kids can play in the sand. They really like, the little girls. They just love playing in that. The lazy river was fun. It's a small lazy river, but it's still fun to just experience. They have a lot of amenities for people that like to, say, drink or eat near the pool. A lot of little bars there and little quick service restaurants along the beach club and yacht club pool area. But beach club is a different world, man. It's just a different type of resort.
Yeah, that may be one of the best ones all around. It really might be.
Yeah, I would stay there again. But again, I did like Saratoga Springs. I don't know. I felt more connected to that resort. Maybe because I live on the East Coast. I don't know. But in the Northeast rather. So all right, John. I know we're going long and everything, and this has been mostly me yapping at the mouth. Next week, obviously, we'll have a lot more interaction because we spent a lot more time together at the parks, and we'll get to talk about some things. But how did your social media go?
Well, it's been very predictable for SeeWDW. It's for a long time, all of a sudden it was like I went from a 2 million in 30-day reach, and I went to 1 million, and then that's where it stayed. And everything seems to be the same now. It stops me around 5,000 views, and then it lets it go to about 10,000 and then stops it again. And then it depends on the video, but there's a weird pattern to it though. So, and basically, I read from Instagram that they decided that it's not fair to compete against small accounts. And I think I said this last time that I saw a lot of accounts that have a couple thousand followers, and they'll have like hundreds of thousands of views on their reels. And they said it's basically because they want it to be fair. So they're pushing that. But ever since that started to happen, I've gotten nothing that was a hit, So like before, I'd get 100,000, 500,000, 250 mixed in with, standard 10, 20,000s. But all of a sudden, I can't get anything too big. I've really been going all out this last week, trying to get things that I know have done really well before. And even that, it's really not taken off that good. Like Space Mountain and with the lights on, I'm up to 28,000, which is good. But in the past, I could do so good on that. The Coco scene from Mickey's PhilharMagic, in the past, I've got hundreds of thousands of views. Now it doesn't even get to 10,000. Nobody likes it. The Tower of Terror sign, I did a new one of them. So I'm doing all of these that have done so well in the past as an experiment. And again, that's at 28,000. It just can't get any more. It's like, and so the algorithm has really been flexing for this one. But on the plus side, I guess my CUO one is not considered that big yet. Maybe it's under 50,000 or something, part of the algorithm, because that one's been doing better than normal. Like once I filled out a survey there, my reach dropped to like 5,000 every day. No matter what I post, it was all the same. Like it was the same numbers. I've recently been able to get it bigger again, and now it's getting back up again where, it's not huge, but, people, if I post something that I know is good, it's going to get the views. Like I did rip Dudley Do Right. It's up to 160,000 views, which I'm not surprised. It's Dudley Do Right. People love it, and that's normal. So they kind of cut the restraints back on this. But in doing tests, they're not cutting the restraints on SeeWDW now again. But I mean, I keep growing, but it just gets frustrating. I have to say, as a company, I'm not surprised to see Facebook not doing well. I really I know that they think they're doing good things, but the way they manipulate things, I wouldn't. I just couldn't even imagine the amount of people who have given up and think poorly of Facebook over the past couple of years, just based on the way they do things. And again, I've been mildly successful. Like I'm one of the lucky ones though that's even mildly successful. But other people, they're just like, I don't know. If you're a blonde girl with Mickey ears, dude, you may do well. There's somebody there that really pushes that stuff. So, but anyway, like I said, I keep struggling along. I'm growing. I'm at 68,200. Although I get the same amount of likes per post as about half that. So that tells you anything. I heard that from other people too, saying, "Oh, my growth, I doubled my followers, but it didn't impact my reach at all." It's like weird how that works like that. But
yeah, that is strange.
And TikTok, I feel like they basically play the same games. I've never been that good on TikTok, but for a while there, I was able to get some hits here and there. It's just desolate there. I did put up the moving walkway video, which made 173,000 views. That's good. But TikTok, unless I want to start doing dumb dances for 8-year-olds that I won't understand why anybody would ever want to watch it, I don't think I'm ever going to do that well on TikTok. I know people like TikTok, and I do too, but I like TikTok for educational. Like I follow some true crime ones, some guy who's really into archaeology, of ancient civilizations. That's an awesome one. I follow people that do like animal ones, so I actually learn a lot on TikTok. But again, that's not my thing. I don't. So it's not all garbage. It's not a good fit for me because there's a million other people that are doing weird little skits with Disney stuff, and I just don't. I don't think they're funny, and I saw obviously I couldn't do it. And again, I'm probably wrong. I'm not doing anything on there. So whatever.
I used to follow a TikTok called "For the Love of Theme Parks," and I still do actually, and he's really changed up the way they have changed up. I think it's a couple, and they've changed up the way they do things and on TikTok. So obviously they're manipulating something over there, like you said. For the Love of Theme Parks, like he used to have some really neat videos and informative and entertaining, and now all he does, and I'm not kidding you, this is all he does, is what things at Disney. He does these lists. It says things at Disney that gave me diarrhea. Ugh. That's what he's turned his social media into on TikTok. And I think it's disappointing. Like it's entertaining at first. Like if you do it once or twice, okay, something like that, and you want to change things up. And if it's working for you, you do like a small series or something. But if you basically become, who the hell wants to be the diarrhea social media page? And so I think a lot of people are trying to desperately change and tool up based on these algorithms and stuff. And I'm sure it works to varying degrees. Like I like what you've done with your Instagram. Like you've tried to do some different things.
I had to turn it into Reels Instagram or die. That was my option. And so I tried, but then they cut the bonus by 10 times. And like I said, I'm still going that direction for growth. They basically forced me to do what they want, or my account would have just crumbled, disappeared, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think you've even started to do some different things lately, trying to do different filters and different things with your...
I've been trying templates that never seem to work for me. Like I see other people, they do like these songs and they put stuff in, and I feel like I do a really good version of it, and it just falls flat on its face, and I'm like, I don't understand those either. When I do them, they do terribly. And then I see people again with like 2,000 followers. They do they use a certain song and a certain template thing, and it just does great. They get hundreds of thousands. And I'm like, man, I have footage that would be even better than that. It's like, nope, fall flat on your face. So again, it's all just weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's some strange thing that they're doing.
But yeah, I did want to mention though too, like Facebook stock is very low compared to what it used to be. And here's the other thing. I was thinking, I always liked Facebook, or Meta, I should say, but I've been looking closer lately, and every single thing that they put up when they put up something about creators, about business, about the metaverse, anything, the comments are 100% or 99% negative. People are really not liking them at all. They're all saying that they're a joke. They don't do it, like it's all bad stuff. And I never really looked that close, and I'm like, wait a minute. The overall view of them as a company has been very negative lately. And again, and like they talk about, I forget, they were advertising some service they're doing. Everybody basically said it's terrible. The handful of people who go, oh, this is great, they immediately question them underneath it and say, oh, really? What's your favorite blah, blah about it? Nobody answers, which makes me think the positive ones, maybe they're bots because they're not.
There's no engagement.
Yeah, if I went there and said, I really love this service that Facebook is doing, and then Facebook themselves said, that's great to hear, what's your favorite thing? I would answer something. I'd be like, wow, Facebook's talking to me. That's a good thing. I want to make sure I'm definitely going to answer. There's no answers. I'm paging through. I'm like, all right, every time they comment, it's ignored. And I'm like, that's just suspicious too. I know bot is the new, popular little keyword that everybody's going to use. But in this case, why wouldn't anybody answer Facebook? If they commented something with me, I would do it just to try to be in their favor. You're number one, you're being polite, but also they control so much stuff behind the scenes that you don't want to make them mad either. I mean, I do make them mad because I don't really care, but I mean, most people, you don't want to upset Facebook. They might be like, oh, and your reach is gone. Too bad for you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Just weird. And I actually bought a couple of call options for Facebook. And, the more I'm reading all this stuff, it's like, because their stock price got beaten down. And I'm like, oh, they're going to come back. It's Facebook. Everybody, I'm on Facebook all the time. I'm on Instagram. But like I said, the more I'm reading this stuff, I'm like, I think I'm going to get rid of these call options because I don't know what people are really thinking. I guess even the biggest things, they do take a hit eventually, so I don't know. We'll see. I might be wrong, but I just wanted to mention on the social media part, I actually invest in this company, and I've been disappointed based on the way they're doing stuff. But when I saw that most they're hated by so many people, I'm like, wait a minute, who are these people that hate them? I thought they were I don't know. I guess I thought with all their weird censorship and stuff or something, I assumed somebody like that, but apparently they don't like, whoever is for that stuff doesn't like Facebook either. So I don't know. I'm starting to wonder about the whole thing. It doesn't seem as real as it used to.
Yeah, I understand why. I got to tell you, I think when they decide to go to this metaverse thing, and, just shows that great minds think alike, or maybe not, that even Disney has just recently appointed somebody in charge of their metaverse social media stuff. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, this shows no sign of actual success yet. And you're putting somebody in a high-level corporate position to, be a part of this metaverse thing. I think things are going in the opposite direction right now. Like, people are starting to have a backlash against all this type of thing. So I don't know. I could be wrong. And I often am. I'm not perfect.
Yeah, me too. But you would be surprised though how many times I see this stuff too. Like, again, I feel like I was a little blinded with the Meta because they were giving me a lot of money for a few months there. I was like, wow, they're really paying me. These people are great. And again, that does help change your thought, but I never really looked that close. Now that I actually invested in them, when they interact with the users, it basically, I don't, maybe it's just a bunch of trolls, but it seems to be in every single facet. They're made fun of, they're made a joke, they're not respected at all. And I'm like, that's weird, like if your Facebook, is it that hard just to like why would that many people hate you? But well, I can guess, but it's like, man, just weird. Anyway, that's the long drawn out, extremely wide view of social media, not just mine. But mine is doing fine. I'm still growing, which that part alone I love. Like, I'm at 68,000. That just seems pretty darn cool that I'm up that high. Universal, I broke 30,000. So, you know, I'm doing better than a lot of people, and I keep struggling along. And I'm making a little bit of money. I'm making probably $200 to $300 a month doing it. So I don't know that that's really worth the amount of time that I put into it, but I will deduct, mileage, meals, all that stuff from taxes. So maybe it'll turn into a loss where I'll make more money at my other job too. So you never know.
That's right. And you enjoy doing it, right? I mean, that's part of it too. It's your passion.
I do, but I didn't really enjoy being forced to come up with reels every darn day, multiple reels every day. Like that to me seems like too much, like
Mm.
it's a lot. I mean, I've been doing it. I must have thousands of reels up by now. So I'm doing it, but all things being equal, I like it to be mixed a little more. I like to do long form videos. I like to go live. I like to do, pictures and all that. But again, most of the time, pictures do terrible. They go nowhere. So I
They
don't know.
do. I don't even post pictures on Instagram anymore. It's just like it's got no engagement or anything. I'm probably going to go back to doing it though, just because I'm not really doing it. I'm not in the same boat as you. I just do it for fun, but I'll
Well,
probably do it on my personal account.
that's what surprised me so much when I posted my live video when I watched the Muppets like a month ago. It did so well, and it got me so many followers and stuff because so many people shared it and stuff. And I'm like, I I assumed at that time that Instagram was just not showing anybody long format videos, but somehow they were. So I don't know. And then I started to do that, and it worked well. And I actually get followers from stories too, so it's just weird.
Hmm.
So again, I'm learning all the time too, but they're also changing the rules behind the scenes of it.
Yeah.
Just tricky.
All right, John. So is that everything you have for social media?
Oh, I could talk all day about it, but sure.
We also skipped a week, so we got a lot to say. This will probably bleed into next week too. So we have we're going to be covering that trip report, and we'll get back to our series that we were doing, but we'll cover that trip report. And what's great about it is there's a lot of new things that we really haven't covered together coming up next week. So, but all right. With that said, where can they find you online, John?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, C.UO on Instagram, and I think that's about it. They probably won't show you my videos anyway, but you could follow if you'd like.
You can find me at the Giant Rat, THE Giant Rat, on Instagram and on TikTok and on Twitter. And that should do it for this week. We will see you on the next one. Coming up, hotel hopping from my recent trip to the